replacing and rebuilding your classic Camaro door. Not something I set out to do when I kicked off this project, but it's something we ended up doing. Let's get into it. What's going on, guys? Matt over here, Lethal Garage, and today I got new doors for the 71 Lethal Classic. And as many of you guys know, if you've been following the videos, here's a couple snapshots from just after media blasting the car of the doors, so you could see what we ran into. And after seeing this, I felt it was just gonna be a better setup because I had already decided to purchase new front fenders, and having that with the OE stamp replacements, going with some OE stamp replacement shells, not skins, but actual shells, so you just transfer over all the internal guts into new doors. Now, yeah, they weren't cheap, but I got two new doors left and right, and based on the images you guys saw, hopefully you agree, like that was probably the best thing to do. And I have to really build them at this point. So there's a lot of parts and pieces that go into it. I synced up with a gentleman on Instagram. I think it's called Second Gen Camaro Rest. I'll put his information down in the description, but his entire footprint is finding second gen parts, restoring them, and finding them good homes for people like us who are potentially restoring a car all the way to factory original, or just need some original parts for your build. And in this instance, I needed some door guts, and he hooked me up. So this box right here is filled with all the new door guts. I'm gonna get this opened up and put it on my tray, but I have to clean off the tray first so I could show you all that, and also get one of the doors open because we're gonna lay it down here and get it, or at least hopefully start to assemble it. Now, one of the first things I did, obviously, is on the old doors, I stripped, well, that's not the old door, but on the old doors, I stripped them. I took everything out of them. So I actually have two buckets, and apologies, my garage is a mess. So I got two buckets over here with the left and the right door that has all the hardware that came out of them. Unfortunately, the doors that were on my car, they were mismatched anyways. They weren't even original doors to the car, and one was electric and the other one was standard. So in this instance, I'm gonna go standard. I'm not doing electric. And I started purchasing a few bags of parts. You can see here, this is basically the full door hardware from Classic Industries. And I don't have the glass yet, but I also have the full glass hardware replacement kit. And there's a few other things that I'm missing, probably the felt pieces and a couple other items. I think I have a few more door pieces somewhere in my mass of parts. I gotta find them, but really it's sitting down, getting the door in place, getting all the parts out, and just kind of take an inventory and attempting to assemble. So today I'm hoping to mostly have an entire door completed by the end of this video. So that's the goal. So I'm gonna get set up, I'm gonna get the door on the stand, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we brought over the left-hand side door. Now this is an OER replacement door. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and pull it out. They do a pretty good job packaging these up. We have the door. That's hard to do. So we have the door on the stand, and basically what I need to do now is just completely unwrap this bad boy. So let's do this in fast motion. The one thing I hate, and I'm just gonna highlight this now, OER uses this really cheap tape, and it leaves terrible residue all over their products. I highly suggest to them, please change your tape, because I gotta spend an hour cleaning off all the sticky crap so I don't gum up my sand stuff, and yeah, it's just not cool. Fix that. Done. So we got the tape off this side. Let's flip this bad boy over. It's not all the way off. We still gotta get the residue off, but I'm not worried about the residue right now. And so a couple things to highlight. One, these doors, while they're a replacement door, they're not 100% perfect. They will have scratches in them. They will have manufacturer marks in them. Will they line up exactly with what you have? Fingers crossed they actually do, because if they don't, I'm in big trouble and we're gonna have to reshape lines and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to go down the road of adding 100 pounds of Bondo on the car. So the one thing I noticed right away, and I say that now because I already opened the other door and did the other door, so I wanted to walk through after I kind of had some experience with the door. But The metal panels here in my original doors, I thought I was gonna have to get replacements for them. These come with that, so that's great. That's one thing to highlight. And then outside of that, it's just a full shell. So it's not a skin. The skin would be the forward piece. But this is a whole shell, and now you transfer over all your antenna guts into this door and get it ready. Now in my instance, I'm gonna put some DynaMat in this setup. So that's gonna allow me to have a cleaner setup in general, quiet it down, eliminate some road noise, and you can kind of hear what it sounds like now. That's obviously not gonna change because that's the skin, but you know, we'll deaden the sound a little bit in hopes to eliminate some of the outside noise. So I got multiple boxes of DynaMat. It doesn't take too much to do a door. We're just gonna do the under part skin here all the way down to the bottom. So we'll go to the bottom of the door and probably a good inch or so underneath this main bar. And then we'll do this upper section from the bar up all the way up to, or at least as far as we can tuck it in along this area. So that's the goal. We're gonna DynaMat first. And I say we, because the lethal wife is gonna come out and help. Her little hands and arms have proven to be amazing at this, where for me, it's hard to get my long arms everywhere. We're gonna T-Rex it up. So let's do it. So one thing I like to do before I start doing my DynaMatting, which I have my DynaMatting right over here, is I like to lay out all my door pieces to make sure I got everything I need to get it into that door right over there. Now, that all being stated, there's quite a few things I want to go over because I'm not necessarily using all original OEM factory parts. Now, what I did early on is I synced up with a guy, 2nd Gen Camaro Parts on Instagram. 2nd Gen is spelt out, S-E-C, whatever. I'll put a link down below for anybody interested. But what he does is he restores factory parts in pieces. So for those of us who want to do either a full original restoration or just have the functioning original parts, you can do that. Now in this instance, I got most of the guts of the doors from him. I got the window rails, I got the lower seat for the window, I got the seat itself, or the bump stop for the bottom of the window, the guides, and the actual mechanism for the window. Now I am going original crank style. This will not be, I promise, this will not be the actual window handle I use, but I'm going old school. So yes, I'm going crank. We're not doing anything power because there is some aspects of this car I want to keep original and old, and I like the mechanical side of the window crank. Yeah, some people probably like, you're crazy, Lethal, but whatever. But we're gonna need this during the install, not because we're putting it on and leaving it there, but because we need to be able to adjust the crank and the setup during this install. So that is there. Now the things that I am replacing, like when I dissected the original doors that came on my 71, these original plastic clips for the main door locks and stuff, I thought I'd be able to reuse them. They're just so old and so brittle, being 50 years old. Yeah, they're not going to be redone. So I spent a heck of a time trying to find these. So this is the door lock rod bell crank retainer. Got 4 of these for each of the doors, but they're literally factory replacements. Perfect. So got some new ones of those. Now the other side of it is my upper window guides. These are in pretty good shape, but the problem is they don't have the felt, and I probably could have went to the store and figured out a solution for it and put some felt, but there's a company out there that did release a setup of these, and it actually has the window stop as well, but they come with the felt already on there, and it's just so nice, and it's good felt, just like the factory felt was. So I picked these up, got new ones to replace these, so I'm not using the old ones, I'm using the new ones. And it's funny because I'm like, I guess I could reuse this if I wanted to, but I have my original one. They're identical. Well, I'm gonna keep the original one. Why? I don't know, but I am. So we'll stick this to the side. The other thing that it comes down to was the door latch. Now the door strike and the door latch and all that stuff, we want to make sure it's all new, not worn down, not faded. So when we go ahead and install all this stuff and install it on the door and install the door on the car, it's as wiggle free and final placement is it going to be. Because if you assemble and get your lines and you have all your old door guts inside the door and there's a little bit of play in it, that's going to be bad for your lines when you go ahead and swap it all out down the road. So replace everything, make sure your strikes are good, make sure your door lock is good, or the striker, etc. I bought all new hardware that we're going to install. So we got the new door latch mechanism, we got all new screws, all new bolts, we got new door handles. So these are brand new door handles from OER. I'm really excited to use these. I had purchased some replacement ones that I mean, I'm assuming they're all made in China, but these ones are definitely made better, and they come with the right size nuts, and they have the plastic coating for the splash guard already all done. You know, so it's one thing to buy the cheap Chinese ones and think that you're saving money, but you're not, because you still have to buy the bolts, you still have to buy the splash guards, which make them almost the same price. So do yourself a favor, if you're looking at the Chinese versions, look at the total price for everything. This one comes with everything you need to slide it right on in, and you're good to go. So outside of that, you can see we have the connection piece for the handle for the rod. We have the main lock mechanic. So this is for the main lock. So this is going up and down. So when you lock your door, this main rod connects to the interior rod. Now, this is not the one I'm using, but I do have an interior door handle. I have a new one coming. We're actually not going to install this or this long rod in this video. We're going to do that at a later time, but everything else, as you can see, is basically either new or refurbished and good to go. Now, one thing I do want to highlight, if you are going to go refurbished, make sure you get a setup that has good guides. You could put some grease in there. Remember, you need to have the window stop in it as well. One of my setups was missing the window stop, so I bought a replacement. Where is it hiding? Right here. So I have the bolts already, but I got a window stop. They basically mount at the top and keep the window from rolling up too far. So but there's a little bit of assembly to do, and we'll just go through that and walk you through that. But right now we got to get the DynaMat in the car. So the DynaMat is going to help again with the installation. So we're going to show you how to cut this down, at least what we're doing on our door, and get it all squared away. So let's get to that. Now, doing DynaMat on your car is pretty straightforward. I'm just going to outline real quick exactly what we did, and then I'm going to time lapse the rest, get it all installed, and show you the final result, at least for what I'm doing in my application. Now, some people will go as far as doing multiple layers. Some people will go as far as doing every aspect of the internal setup. For me, I'm just going to get the outer skin to the bottom of the door, as far up underneath the main metal brace going down the side, and as far up top as I can get, and down into the metal brace again. It's going to provide decent amount of sound deadening. It's going to be kind of hard. I don't have an original door to compare with the other one, or original car. Maybe we can find a car that doesn't have DynaMat or anything like that and compare it, but that's for a different video at a different day. In this instance, I have a good ruler or an angle. I have a silver Sharpie. So I have my roller, and then I also have this finishing tool, which has proven to be awesome because it has a nice smooth edge right here. And so you can get up underneath things, pushing down the DynaMat to get it to stick nice and tight without having air gaps and stuff like that. So a lot of different tools. I also have a tape measure that proves very nice, and then you're gonna need a pair of scissors that can cut nicely. This is just a cheap pair of scissors I had for years, but it cuts this DynaMat really nicely and it doesn't get gummed up or stuck. So if you have a really cheap pair of scissors, you may run into issues cutting this. It is sticky, but this pair seems to work pretty good for me. So let's get to measuring, and then I'll show you how I figured out the first setup. There's lots of different aspects of the inside of the door. As you can see, it's not perfectly square. There's all sorts of different angles, so you're gonna have to fight with that installing the DynaMat. The one thing that I will say is don't hesitate to overlap your DynaMat. It doesn't have to butt up perfect. You can just lay it down nice, and if it overlaps the others, that's fine. If you put a whole bunch of extra pieces in this corner to make sure you meet up with this perfect curve, that's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. The biggest thing you could do is if you do like 2 or 3 layers, you could build it up to a point where it may hit a functioning part of the door. So just be careful with that. But it's all pretty straightforward from there. As far as measuring, so I found it really easy just to get a tape measure down in here, and you can feel the bottom of the ledge, like my fingers hitting the bottom of the door, which is right here. So you know we're measuring from that point there, and I know I can get the DynaMat about 1.5 inches underneath this main rail. So if you look inside the door, there's this huge rail right here that runs side to side, and I can get the DynaMat tucked up underneath. Like, you can't fit your fingers under there to lay it down, and that's where this tool comes in handy. Really nice, so you can get up in there so you can see it, and you just force it down, get it as high as you want. Now some people are like, why don't you just do a whole sheet and do the whole door? Well, it's gonna stick, you can't move it, and it's gonna be a nightmare. You might be able to get away with it if you just did a long strip, or maybe if you peeled it off in the door, but I'm doing it this way. You do it how you want. Yeah, so I just measure. I can get 10.5 inches underneath this, no problem. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna measure out the distance side to side, start marking this, and cut it up, and then do the same thing for the top. Measure as far up as I can get, and then same with down low, and cut it up and start putting it in pieces. And what I'll do is I do smaller square pieces about this big. So I'll take a huge strip, and I found that I'll use 2 full pieces of DynaMat for this door. So if you guys have ever gotten DynaMat in the full boxes, it, you know, lays out. You can see my other piece on the floor over here, but I lay it on the floor, I step on it so it gets nice and flat, and then I measure it out. But this door will take 2 full sheets to get it done. But as far as cutting and trimming, or at least marking for it, tape measure right up at the top corner. I go 10.5 inches. The nice part about having a silver marker is you can clearly see it on black. So we'll just go down and make marks at 10.5 inches all the way down. But you'll see now that will give me a nice straight line to carry. And of course it moved. Hi, Lethal Wife. I don't know if I'm looking high enough to where, yeah, they could see you. So my wife's coming out because she knows it's almost time to start helping me with her tiny little T-Rex arms. T-Rex arms? Well, they're not short, but they're little. They look like T-Rex arms in the door from the angle that, here, I'll show you the picture. It's funny. I don't care what you say. So this is the bottom part all cut up. Perfect. And what I'll do is I'll cut this down. It just makes it easier to work with smaller pieces, because if like one corner sticks, you're screwed. Perfect. Time lapse time. So this front corner is a little more difficult than most because you could see actually right there on the top side it pinches down, so you can't really slide the DynaMat that easily. I'd recommend either doing it in multiple pieces. In this instance, we're just gonna fold this one piece up and over the bar and make it look good. Now, we haven't gone over the entire portion of the DynaMat with the roller yet, which is this tool, but you can see my wife has the orange tool already and is forcing it down. This finishing tool makes it really easy because this roller can't get into all the angles. But you can see we ran the DynaMat all the way to the bottom edge of the door. You got to make sure you don't cover any of the water drip holes. So Carrie's, you're doing fine. So if you were to wrap the DynaMat up the edge, so you can see where we ran it, it's at, you know, that's flush to the bottom of the door, but if you run it up that edge, you can see there's little drip tray holes there. You don't want to cover those, so that's why I ran it that route. And it keeps it out of the water. I have the best wife ever. So Carrie is wrapping up the DynaMat, pushing it all down. You can see I got really creative around the door handles. There's a couple pieces that go in here, so I like to clear around it, but I got as close as I could around the lock and the door handle placement. Got it all tucked in there. You can see there's a lot of overlapping pieces, but overall, you can see the DynaMat looks nice. It's in there really good. And Carrie's just forcing it down with a tool. You can kind of see what she's doing right in there. Just getting underneath the ledges and making it look nice and clean. Babe, you're awesome.
Thanks.
So next up, my wife and I are gonna put the guts in the door. This is gonna be fun. You do look a lot shorter with the camera on my head, huh?
That's what I look like all the time.
This one is like being a... Yes. Now you can see exactly the angle that I see you at. We got the DynaMat in the door, and my beautiful wife, lethal wife, is still here. And we got to get the guts in here. So there's a couple ways you can go about it. I obviously don't have glass yet, so we're gonna get the window mechanism. We're gonna get all of, well, I shouldn't say all the door locking mechanisms. We're not gonna get the internal door lock set up, but one of the things I do want to caveat is the mechanism I am using was originally riveted. So I'm gonna come over here. So this piece right here, oh, almost on the toe. That would have been bad. So this piece right here has a bunch of bolts. Actually, this one looks a little bit different. No, it's the same, but you can see these holes here. These were originally riveted in place. Now, my original doors, one had rivets, the other one was bolted in place. So in this instance, I don't want to rivet these, because if I ever want to pull these out and mess with them or grease the joints or anything like that, I don't want to have to deal with any of that. So I'm not gonna mess with it. So I'm using some, what size bolts did I end up using? I think I ended up using a 1/4-20 bolt setup that are stainless steel. And then I had to use a little bit of spacers to make sure the bolt didn't go all the way through and touch the mechanism. So I'll show you how we install those. The other side is this piece here is gonna be it's gonna sit in the door like this. So, is it this side? Is it the small side or the long side? It's been so long. I should have mocked this up. So remember, I am gonna have to open this up to get this in the right position. But the bottom tray will sit on here, is gonna bolt, I believe, to right here and right here, and then this will follow onto that. So we'll lay that there. One piece that almost smashed my foot. So this one's gonna go right here. You can see where the bolt connects. These two go here. I guess I should have just said, we should lay this out. This one goes there, just like that. Do the big one here. Small one. Small one. That's gonna fall in the door and I'm gonna lose it forever. Stay. So that goes there and there. But before we put any of these mechanisms in, we should probably put the door latch. These are like some of the hardest screws to get out if you have a factory setup. I don't know why they're so difficult, but these ones come with little lock washers, which I think keeps these from getting stuck again. But literally we need to slide this into place here so we can get the locks. And actually my wife has the Phillips head screwdriver. You want to hold these? And then I will try to come over here. Or not. Is it lined up? Yeah. So we got our new door lock mechanism in place. I can probably get my hand in here. So that works. That works. And now my hand's stuck. Okay, so that's in there. That's gonna be a little bit easier. Actually, the other thing that's gonna be easier to get in now rather than later is the handle. So I can't put the lock into the door, unfortunately, because I don't have the L bracket from the lock to the mechanism. So I completely fail. That might bite me in the butt later, but. So you can see you slide the lock or the handle in place. Now the one thing that we have to do that I didn't do is get the metal trim piece. Where are you hiding? It's right here. So this is one of those, there's a little plastic, or not plastic, but a metal clip in there. This just slides in and it should slide. There we go. So now that's locked in there. So that's on. So now we'll open the door. Can you see it? So now when you open the door, it unlocks the door. So that works. So now that we got that latch and everything in place, we can get these parts and pieces where they're supposed to go. Now I have brand new bolts for all these. So honey, if you want to thread this when I get it down there. There we go. So honey, if you can thread that in. So we're sliding in the window rails right now. And it doesn't have to be all the way tight, just holding it in place. So obviously the final placement of the window rails will be determined based on the window and all the actuators. Slide these in. So, oh yeah, yep, right there. Oh, you don't have a bolt. There you go, my love. So next on there, we can get the window guides. Whoa, whoa. I put the bigger one right here because it has the longer peg. So again, I'm gonna put these in all the way far back. And then once we get the glass in, we can snug them up so they're right up against the glass. But that will be a later time. So this bracket is important because this is the positioning guide. And then I gotta get the bottom rail. The bottom rail is hidden over here. So this rail is gonna slide on to this big wheel. And that big wheel. Right? So that goes like that. And then this is gonna slide onto there. So now this whole contraption is gonna be all sorts of fun. So where's my... So I'm gonna lay this out roughly where it's gonna go. So we know this is at about there. You can kind of position a lot of stuff in relation. And so this crank needs to be here. So I took off the C-clip. There's a little clamp right here that locks it on. I took that off so I can freely... We'll get this angled roughly in the right position. And you can kind of get an idea based on the mounting holes. So these holes right there are gonna line up. And that's about right. But that goes down. So we will open it a little more. So let's try to feed this through. So, can you position that so this comes to right there? Oh wow, we got that pretty dang good. So let me get a nut and washer for right there. Sorry. So it looks like whoever owned this before messed it up a little bit, but there we go. So I got one in. What do I do with all the other ones? Are they on that side? There's the hole. So a little bit.
My hand is not there.
Perfect.
Okay.
Woo! High five. So we got 2 in. Watch your fingers. Don't put your fingers in there. This will take your fingers right off. Actually, we can probably put this one on first. So we've cleared that. Okay, get this one. Sorry, babe. I appreciate the want to help. Okay, so that one's there, that one's there. So now we have enough support to where... Okay, it's not squealing. We're winning.
Good thing, right?
Yeah, super good. The hard part is I have to loosen this just a tad. I don't think I can get to it. There we go. Loose. And try to get that to shift up. Perfect. There we go. You okay? I'm gonna have to get my 1/4-inch ratchet in there to hold them in place. Okay, so this fell off during all of our trials and tribulations, and it's proving to, oh, I'm doing it backwards, that's why. There we go. So now I got that on, and this is gonna line up right here and right there. So I got that started. And then we can get this lined up. I'm not entirely sure where this one's gonna go yet. So this is a stationary bolt. We could tighten that up, but really what you want to do is crank your window all the way down. So that's looking good. And you can see where the 2 bolts are. So these 2 placements right here are where the window, and again, I don't know if you guys can see these, but there's 2 little placements. That's what bolts the window to that tray. And we'll go ahead and roll this all the way up. What are we hitting? So you can see this is flat here, but that's down. So we'll loosen this and we can force that down, and that straightens that out. So let's see if we can get that pretty close right there. Again, we'll adjust everything once we get the glass, but it's always nice to get it kind of close. And we'll grease everything before this door goes all the way back together, but that's a functioning window, boys and girls. So I'm gonna roll this up because I forgot a crucial part. Our window stop. So this is the stop that keeps things from going all the way down. Probably would have been a good thing. Put that on earlier. There we go. Now we have all the inner workings of the door in place, and that should hit the stop now. Yep. So that hits the stop. And this coming all the way up. Seems like we might have a bent. This might be a little bent. We may have to pull this whole mechanism out, because on the other one, this comes all the way up. This one seems to be flexing down. So we'll have to figure that out once the glass gets here. But we know everything mounts up and basically works. So that's good. The only other thing that we'll probably do is grease up all of the rails. So that will happen when we get to that point, but yeah, something to consider. But we got the weight in the door, and that's what really matters, because we got to mount the doors. And when you mount the doors, you want as much of the weight in there as possible, so that way you can predict how the sag and all that stuff's going to be, so that way when we put the hinges on, we have it all lined up and good to go. So our next task is going to be hooking up the door lock. Now this is a pretty simple setup. It just slides right into the latch that we installed, and then this is held in place. And this seems like it's bent a little bit, unless it's gonna sit up. It'll probably sit up just to, oh no, and saved by that railing. So now we have to get these plastic pieces on. They should just snap on. This is where I got in trouble with my old ones. They snapped at that point. And it's kind of funny because there's a little bit of play in these. I don't know if I like that at all, but maybe it will go away when we slide them into there. Oh, why do these things suck so bad? So now we'll slide that in. And these could be tricky. So depending how the metal is on your vehicle, being that these are new doors, these like to be bent in a little bit. But the goal is to get them just under the edge. And that looks like this one will probably feed in a little bit easier. And then just slide them in. Hammer may be required. Well, I totally screwed this up. This one, well, it was on good. Here. That one slid in perfectly fine. This one collapsed that edge. Whatever. I'm mad. Mad at myself. Mad at the door. But this rod slides into there. The plastic clip slides onto there. And we have a locking door. Minus all the mess ups, stupid plastic clip, and our custom mounting hardware. Again, use what you want to use. You can use the rivets. I didn't want to use the rivets just in case I want to take it out, and it's a good thing I didn't, because I believe this arm is bent a little too far this way. I think we're gonna have to pull it out and do a little bit of tweaking on that, which is fine, because now it's just 4, 5, 6 bolts. So this bolt, that bolt, and these 4, and that whole thing comes right on out. So either or, we now have the guts in the door. It's DynaMatted. We're in a good position to now put the hinges on and get it mounted on the car, shim it, get it all lined up, and then go from there. So yeah. And that is kind of how you put a door together. There's still obviously a lot to do. There's the padding, there's the main interior door, there's the armrest, all that stuff. We'll get to that when we get to the interior. But as far as the internal guts of the door, they're almost all there, minus the inside door handle and the lock. So I didn't have the L-shaped bracket to connect the lock to the mechanism, and I didn't have the final interior door handles. They're just not here yet. So with all the COVID stuff going on, it's impossible to get stuff. And huge shout out to my beautiful bride for helping out today. What do you think, babe? These doors are gonna be awesome? You know, there's a lot of people that are gonna be like, why did you crank windows? And I kind of talked to why I wanted crank windows, but why do you want crank windows?
Because I like to stick to the original as best as I can.
Yeah, I mean, the car's not a ton of original.
I
But
know. Well, I didn't get a lot of choices.
yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't give her a lot of choices, so my bad. Oh well. So I got a lot of room in the garage again, and the doors are in the truck. We're gonna bring those up to Craig's. We're not gonna hang the doors today, but they're gonna be there. So it's one less trip. But I'm feeling really good about where we're at on the project. So thanks, babe.
You're welcome.
for your help? You're gonna be ready to DynaMat the entire interior of the car? That's gonna be a lot easier, I think. Maybe. I don't know, we'll get there. I need a hat again.
I haven't seen it.
We're going like, my hair is so long because all the barbers and my hairdresser or hair person, which is her sister, won't come over and cut my hair. So, oh well, I guess I'm just going long hair. Lethal. That's that. Till next time, guys. See you on the road. It totally looks like T-Rex arms. I'm going to get you. Anyways,